I'm David Binder. I'm a photographer and filmmaker. I've been reporting on AIDS since 1987, producing a series of stories, including an ongoing reporting of Gail Farrow and her family that has continued on now a quarter of a century. The Gail story started with my intention of spending the year and a half that I spent with that family every day in the 80s, photographing Gail's last year of life and her family's early adjustment to their lives without her. What was interesting to me is the potential to fight prejudices and preconceived ideas of who someone is. And Gail, as an African-American woman, people believe that she contracted through IV drugs, or that she may have been a prostitute or something before they end up reading their story. So for Gail to have contracted through a blood transfusion, it forces readers to come to terms with their own preconceived ideas of who this woman was. There were comments that the story lacked showing the horror of AIDS. And I found that really sad that that was the observation, because it didn't have those horrific, exotic images. John Parker's a really interesting fellow. He was imprisoned, and I don't know for what, but while he was in prison, he learned about the risks of sharing needles and infection. And he had been a drug user himself. And through that education, he took it upon himself to go out on this campaign to first educate his friends, and then, in a broader sense, start some sort of an organization to help stop the spread of AIDS among IV drug users. My story on him was to show those, it really captured the early days of what that campaign was. And John would get arrested. It was illegal to do what he was doing. Subsequently, of course, we're now in a time that he's been validated with his work. There are institutional needle exchange programs now, I think in most cities. I heard mention of the first summer camp program for families affected by AIDS out in Northern California called Camp Sunburst. Those families and those children could not be honest and truthful about their situation back in their home communities. And you could watch them through each day that they spent at the camp become more and more comfortable, and the burdens wash off their back as they started to have some sense of a normalcy in their lives where they could play and be around other kids and not be fearful of disclosing that either they had AIDS, or their sibling had AIDS, or their parent had AIDS. You know, my takeaway from all of this, the better we get to know each other, the more humanity comes out.